Hello guys, and welcome to the next video in my tanking guide series, and today we're taking a look at main tanking Veteran Sunspire. In this trial there's a large focus on mitigating highly damaging attacks, and while that can be fun, personally I don't enjoy the trial very much because it forces you into a sort of perma-blocking playstyle, which honestly overall just makes the fight less interesting in my opinion, because there's significant periods of time where you're literally just standing still holding right mouse button and there's nothing else you can do. Anyway, that's my small introductory rant over. Sunspire has 3 bosses and some trash. The bosses are all dragons. There's an ice dragon, a fire dragon and a weird time dragon. Even the trash can be quite challenging, but the only important thing to know from a tank point of view is basically everything has a frontal cleave attack, so you can't face anything towards the group. Keep it pointing 180 degrees away from anybody and you'll be fine. When you enter the main room with the first set of trash, the way to the ice boss is to the left and the way to the fire boss is to the right. Every dragon boss has essentially 3 mechanics that you need to know about. The first mechanic is a dragon breath, which deals very heavy magical damage, ticking every half a second for 3 seconds, so 6 ticks in total. It is roll dodgeable, so regardless of the boss, what you can do is take 3 ticks from the breath, and then roll dodge backwards and you won't take any more damage. Just don't roll dodge after 2 ticks or the last one will hit you unblocked. The second mechanic is a standard heavy attack, but keep in mind that it's quite a fast heavy attack animation, and sometimes it can be hard to see since the dragon's head might be way up at the top of your screen. The fire boss has an extra mechanic tied to its heavy attack, but more on that later. The final mechanic is some sort of phase where the boss flies up into the air and you have some sort of adds. The type of adds that you get depends on the fight, and how long this phase is depends on which dragon you're fighting. So again, more on that later. On all of these bosses, you're going to want to pick a side that you want to be on, and then the group goes to the other side so that they don't get hit by the breath. You can't stand too close to the boss, or all of the boss's attacks will knock you backwards and stagger you, and you can't go too far away either, otherwise they're going to shoot projectiles at you that deal massive damage and you have to roll dodge them. That's the same for every boss in Sunspire. You want to be standing pretty much exactly in front of where the boss's head is, not any closer and not any farther away. Every boss also has a damage over time bleed effect, but there's not much you can do about that except investing some champion points into thick-skinned. There really is nothing special during the main phase of the ice boss here. The breath is completely the same as I mentioned earlier, and the heavy attack can be dodged too. Aside from the breath, he has no cleave abilities, so if you're struggling to keep yourself alive, you can go into the group and leech some of the healing springs. Just make sure you wait for the breath to happen first, and only stay in the group for about 5 seconds, otherwise you risk the next breath hitting the group as well. When he does the mechanic called Frozen Tomb, which is something for the DDs and healers to worry about, he will stop attacking you for a couple of seconds, so this is the perfect time to land a heavy attack for some extra stamina. The boss flies up into the air and starts the secondary phase at 80%, 50% and 20% of his health. In the secondary phase, you're going to be in charge of debuffing and taunting the Storm Atronachs. If you didn't kill any of them before this phase started, there might be 7 or 8 of them. The group of DDs will be moving together, focusing them down, so just follow them, melee taunt the ones that are close by to apply Fracture and Breach, and then range taunt the rest to keep them on you. When the Storm Atronachs die, they drop a lightning rune on the ground, and the off-tank will drag the Frost Atronachs through the rune. The Frost Atronachs have a huge amount of health, and they take 75% reduced damage, but these runes do about 3 million damage to them. The boss that's flying in the air will come down and do a laser beam style breath attack that sweeps across the platform, just make sure to block that. He's also going to be bombarding the platform with linear breath attacks from above, so move out of any AoEs. The breath from above can be quite desynced from the actual visual effect on the ground, so be ready for it to hit you even if you aren't stood in it, but as a tank it shouldn't one-shot you anyway. After the secondary phase ends, the rest of the fight is just rinse and repeat, 2 more times, and the boss falls over. On to the fire boss now, where the breath is exactly the same, except for the fact that it's fire damage, so if you're a stage 4 vampire it's going to hurt more. The heavy attack is going to leave a lingering fire AoE circle on the ground. When he does the heavy attack, you're going to take at least 1 tick of the fire AoE, and it deals a large amount of damage, but it can be blocked. Don't panic, don't drop block and try to run out of it faster, just keep blocking and get out as fast as you can. Because of this, it can also be quite risky to try and roll dodge the heavy attack, because even if you dodge it, it is possible to be hit by an unblocked tick of the fire AoE, and that still does about 10 to 15k damage. Positioning is emphasised here, because you only have a small space to work with. Again, you can't go too close, and you can't go too far away. Instead of dropping the fire circles in the front and back, try to place them to the left and to the right, so you can stay roughly the same distance away from the boss, but just at different angles. As long as you don't go past the boss's head and onto the other side, the rest of the group will be just fine. He does a mechanic where he puts his head up into the air and starts bombarding the platform with fire AoEs, and he stops attacking you for a couple of seconds while he does that, so yep, you guessed it, perfect time to heavy attack. He flies up into the air at 75%, 50% and 25% of his health. During the secondary phase, the off-tank will be doing all of the work this time, but that doesn't mean you can't help out. Run to the opposite side of the platform, right to the edge, and chain the flame Atronachs into the group if there's any that are loose. Don't go into the fire AoE in the middle of the platform, because that's going to insta-kill even a tank. When the fire AoE goes away, the boss is going to land in a different position to where he was previously. Each time he flies and lands, he moves 90 degrees clockwise. After the secondary phase is done, rinse and repeat 2 more times, and the boss falls over. And now for the final boss. At the start, you're going to have 4 adds to kill in the centre of the platform, and then the boss is going to bombard the platform with 3 waves of fire AoEs. After the 3rd wave, you need to hide behind one of the statues at the edges of the platform, otherwise you're going to get one shot. The breath and the heavy attacks are completely standard, nothing special tied to them whatsoever. The only really scary thing is a special mechanic that targets you called Marked for Death. Marked for Death will do heavy damage over time, as well as completely removing all of your resistances. Nice, right? There's 2 ways of dealing with that. The way that's harder for you, but easier for the rest of the group, is you just face tank it. The breath is going to hit like an actual freight train, so you will have to roll dodge the last few ticks of it, and even the first 3 ticks are going to require some intensive healing. I found that I couldn't rely on the Blood Altar synergy, because in some cases you simply die before the synergy even appears. Igneous Shield before the breath hits you. Vycosa is strongly advised so you can bash the boss for major maim just as the breath starts to hit you, and then spam green dragon's blood until you can roll. The second way is to switch tank aggro when you get marked. The off-tank taunts the boss immediately after you get marked. It has to be very fast because the breath can happen straight afterwards, and you take whatever adds he was dealing with. This can be harder for the group because you're going to have flame Atronachs exploding in melee range, potentially killing some DDs, but it's not a big issue in non-hard mode. Just like in the other encounters, the boss is going to fly away 3 times during the fight. Every time he does so, a set of adds is going to spawn. The first time there'll be 4 adds, then 6 adds, then 8 adds. There will always be 2 casters spawning on opposite sides of the platform. Divide aggro how you wish, The two main ways of doing it is to either split the aggro by spawn point, so one tank takes the left side and one tank takes the right side, or you can divide aggro by the type of enemy, so one tank takes the casters and one tank takes the melees. The most important thing is to stack the casters so they can be focused down, and keep aggro on the melees so they aren't running through the group one-shotting DDs. After about 20 seconds, the boss from above is going to put down a large yellow time stop circle that slows you down, and after about 5 seconds, any adds that are still inside that circle will get enraged. The enrage is no joke, so get out of that circle as fast as you can, either by roll dodging or by using mist form. The casters won't move and will get enraged regardless, which is why it's important you focus them down ASAP. After all the adds die, the boss is going to bombard the platform with 3 waves of fire again, so do the dance and then hide behind a statue. Rinse and repeat 2 more times and the boss falls over. In the execute phase, there's going to be meteors targeting random people, and yes, they can target you. After the AoE circle under you fills up completely, it's going to leave a lingering fire AoE on the ground, so don't drop it where you need to stand. And yes, there can be some pretty nasty RNG here, like you having marked for death and a meteor and a breath all at the same time. Don't panic, move backwards to drop the meteor, move back towards the boss while blocking, and roll dodge forward for the breath instead of backwards. I hope you found this video useful. If you're not sure about gear choices, I'm going to put some potential options in the description of the video, so make sure you check that out. Thanks for watching, cheers guys, see ya.